Hello. We have reached, I believe, our penultimate shiur on Shmita, and we've been discussing Pruzbol, Shmitas Kesafim, the fact that the Shmita year releases debts, and that Hillel instituted that people should make a Pruzbol so that they could recover their money and not refrain from giving loans. So the question is, when does Shmita annul the debts? There is one pasuk in Dvarim, Perek Tesvav, pasuk Aleph, Deuteronomy 15:1. Miket sheva shanim tasei Shmita. At the end of 7 years, you will make a Shmita. There is another in verse 9 in the same chapter. It says, Hishemer lecha penye devar im levavcha b'lial lemor. Guard yourself, lest there be some disgusting thing in your heart, saying, Karva shnasa sheva shnasa Shmita. The 7th year is drawing near, the sabbatical year, the year of remuneration of debts. V'ra einecha be'achicha ha'evyon, and your eye will be evil to your poor brother. V'lo titen lo, and you will not give to him. V'kara alacha el Hashem, and he will call to God. V'haya v'chachet, and it will be a sin of yours. So, the first implies Miket Sheva Shanim, at the very end of the 7 years. The second pasuk says the 7th year is drawing near, and you wouldn't give it, which implies at the beginning of the 7th year. In Dvarim, Perek Lamed Aleph pasuk Yud, Deuteronomy 31:10, V'itzav Moshe osam lemor, and Moshe commanded them, saying, Miket Sheva Shanim, at the end of 7 years, B'moed Shnasa Shmita, at the festival of the sabbatical year, the Shmita year, B'chag Sukkos, in Sukkos. And we know that this is a Kriyas Torah that the king does on Sukkos after the Shmita year. He reads all of Sefer Dvarim, all of Sefer Deuteronomy to the people. So this strengthens the idea that Miket Sheva Shanim is at the very end of the 7 years, not at the beginning. The Gemara in Archine seems to go along with this, as it says, Amr of נחman bar Ytzak. נחman bar Ytzak says, Tanya nami hachi, we learned similarly in the Brisa, Nמצאת אומר, it comes out that you say, Achad Yovel ואחד שביעית משמטין כאחד. The Jubilee year and the sabbatical year annul debts as one. Ela שיובל בתחילתו, so Shmi's בסופה. But the Jubilee year, the end of 50 years, which is after 7 Shmita cycles, is at its very beginning, and the Shmita at its very end. Now, these two moments are the same moment, meaning the last instant of the 7th year, the 7th year of 7 cycles of 7 years, is also the first instant of the Jubilee year, which is the beginning of the 50th year. Adaraba, Shum Hachi Havia, is this something? What does this mean? I mean, if Shmita does it every time, then Jubilee isn't adding anything to this. Iemah mipnei she'yovel, but you're saying it's because of the yovel. B'shleimish besova. I understand that from everything we've learned in these pesukim that Shmita should annul the debts at the end of the year. Dechsiv, as it says, Miket Sheva Shanim tasei Shmita. At the end of 7 years, you will do the Shmita year. So from here it seems, from the Gemara in Archim, it seems that Shmita annuls the debts. The debts are released at the very end of the Shmita year. And this is in fact the understanding of the Rambam. As he says, Ein shvis mishmetes k'safim ela besopha. The sabbatical year only releases the debts at its very end. Shenamar, as it says, Miket Sheva Shanim tasei Shmita. At the end of 7 years, you will do the release. V'zei dvar hashmita, and this is the matter of the release. V'sham hu omer, and it also says in the same perek, Miket Sheva Shanim b'moed shnasa Shmita b'chag Sukkos. At the end of 7 years, at the festival of Sukkos, of the sabbatical year, meaning afterwards. Ma'asham achar Sheva. What's true there? It's this Sukkos, this Kriyas Torah and this Sukkos by the king, is after the sabbatical year is over. Av hashmatas kasafim achar Sheva. So too, the release of debts is after the 7 years. This all seems relatively easy, except for the one pasuk that said, Karva Shnas HaSheva, the 7th year is drawing near. And based on this, the Rosh has a different understanding based upon the Tosefta. The Tanya b'Tosefta, and we learned in the Tosefta, Emasai Kosum Alav Prusbol. When do we write a Prusbol? Erev Rosh Hashanah Shel Shvis. We write it before Rosh Hashanah at the very beginning of the Shmita year. Fuadim Kodem, and so too you could write it before this as well. V'lo ba'alamayit ela b'shna shvi'is. This only comes to tell us that you cannot write it during the sabbatical year. Even though the Shmita year doesn't annul the debt, except at the end, nonetheless you can't write a prusbol. The reason for this is that it says, Lo yigosh, you will not press your companion to pay back the debt. So according to the Rosh, during the entire sabbatical year, you can't ask for the debt back. He still owes you the money, but I'm not allowed to ask him for the debt during this year. And at the end of the year, he's released from the debt. There's, so to speak, they've suspended payments on the student loans during Corona, and now they're forgiving a certain amount of it, or all of it, depending upon income and the amount of debt and so on. But here, we're saying, what the Rosh is saying, is there's this time period when the debt is held in abeyance. If someone would come to you and say, I want to pay back the debt during this time, you could accept the money, according to the Rosh. Whereas after the sabbatical year and they want to pay you back the money, you're supposed to say, Mishametani, the debt's been released, you don't have to pay me. If he insists, then you're allowed to take it, but you're supposed to try and not take it, unless he would be insulted in some way or something like that, after the sabbatical year is over. So, based upon the Rosh, the Balatanya wrote that it's good to make 2 prusbols. One before the Shmita year begins, and one at the very end of the Shmita year, because most of the opinions follow the Rambam and the Gemara and Arching. And when we look at the Shulchan Aruch, it says, Ein shvis mashmetis k'safim ela besopha. Shmita year only releases the debts at the end. Lefichach, therefore, hamalve es chavero b'shvis atzma, if you extend a loan to someone during the sabbatical year, gova chova kol hashana, you're allowed to collect the debt the whole year, not like the Rosh. Bebeistin, and you can use a court to collect the debt. Tishka chama b'leil Rosh Hashanah shel motzi shvis abed hachov, and when the sun sets, starting Rosh Hashanah at the end of the sabbatical year, he has lost his debt. To sum up, the Minchas Chinuch on the mitzvah of Shmitas K'safim writes, Ve'ashmis mashetis K'safim besof, betishka chama b'leil Rosh Hashanah b'motzi shvis. Nechla tachov. The sabbatical year releases the debts at the end when the sun sets on the night of Rosh Hashanah. At the going out of the Shmita year, the debt is erased. Vehen im lo vekodem shvis or b'shvis atzma. It doesn't matter whether he extended the debt on before the sabbatical year or during the sabbatical year. Go v'chova kol hashana. You can collect your debt all year long. V'tishka hachama b'leil Rosh Hashanah abed hachov. And when the sun sets at the night of Rosh Hashanah, he's lost the debt. V'ladas Rambam v'harbe Rishonim yachol litbo achov kol hashana. According to the Rambam and the majority of the Rishonim, you can collect your debt the whole sabbatical year long. Veino over below yigosh kachol hashanim. You do not transgress the prohibition of not pressing to receive a debt, just like in any other year. La'achar shenechla taho leil motzi shvis hainu b'leil Rosh Hashanah az mishamet va'ovrim belav Uba'ase im noge shachov. However, after the night of Rosh Hashanah begins, you transgress the Torah prohibition of releasing the debt if you try and collect the debt after Rosh Hashanah. Avodas harosh, but according to the opinion of the Rosh, to tekev peknisa shmita aser ligo shachov, that the Rosh says as soon as the Shmita begins, you're not allowed to collect the debt. Va'over belav, and you transgress the negative prohibition, im nosein ba'atzmo, rakim nosein ba'atzmo, and only if he offers it to you on his own without being requested can you collect the debt during that time. As I said, we do not, in general, paskin like the Rosh. There is a minhag of many people that they want to fulfill the tikkun of Hillel, so they make a prusbul. After that, they loan someone a small amount of money so that they can also fulfill the mitzvah of releasing the debts after the sabbatical year. Everyone should have a wonderful rest of the shvis, the Shmita, and emerge debt-free into the coming years.